was already so much to chew over from the weekends, and then the match review panel judgments landed on the 360 agenda. North Melbourne veteran Brent Harvey sent directly to the tribunal for what might prove a most costly grapple with the Bulldog tagger. Nathan Fyfe won't be seen again before finals after copping a 2-week whack for a crack at Jordan Lewis. And the day after the Demon disaster, we'll see if Paul Roos has some answers for a club actively seeking help. I'm Gerard Whateley. He's Mark Robinson. This Monday night, it's footy from all angles. Hello, Robbo.
Hello, Gerard. You well?
Did you get all our cards and flowers and well wishes?
I got nothing from Fox, to be honest. I got
Except
nothing.
ridicule.
I got
ridicule.
Who were they? Dermot, Dunstall, Vossi was good.
Yeah, I thought
Dunstall was brutal.
Barry Hall was the most forthright.
He won't say it to my face though on Thursday night, Barry. I learnt a lot about Barry. But yeah, I had the flu. It laid me low, but I watch the show every night. It went really well. I kind of like the idea of roving. What are they called?
I'm not sure that's actually the best thing to say in that chair.
Yeah, but I'm not going to. They're not going to get me. I'm thinking about you next time.
Right.
We'll get those boys in. Like I'll stay this time. We'll get different hosts in.
A Monday hero, someone who shows great resolve and tenacity in the face of adversity, Robbo.
Oh, on a tremendous weekend of football. I just loved yesterday's game. On Fox, it was Fremantle and Hawthorn, and myself, like a lot of people in footy, was probably starting to think, has Pav got another campaign in him? And you know what I loved about Pav yesterday was he started off and I thought, God, he's got to get to more contests. He kicked 5 goals, 4 of them were in play, snaps around the body. That was the set shot, and I thought to myself, he's still got his smarts, Gerard. He's still got his footy savvy, and he just look at that. I mean, that is just it's class, and it was just vintage Pav. And you know, I was so happy for him. Great leaders that got to take their football teams to the premiership. What we saw yesterday, and we'll talk about it later, we saw Fremantle announce themselves as a genuine premiership threat.
They recast a lot yesterday.
Oh, weren't they just hot?
It would have been top of the agenda bar for what the match review panel's done, so we'll get there soon enough.
Who was your
Dyson Heppell was clearly my hero. We called this game on in the Saturday twilight, and look, he's a man who's been coming of age before our eyes this year, and he grew immensely in the absence of Watson, and then when Watson came back, he still took the tag, and he was held to 10 possessions at half-time. I spoke to him yesterday and he described the team as frazzled. Great use of the word frazzled.
Yeah, good word.
And then he got switched to half-back to help him, and then he took it upon himself to change the fortunes of the team as best he could, and had 29 in the second half.
He had 16 in the final quarter when the game was there to be won.
He had 9 in the first 7 minutes of that quarter to set the tone as Essendon looked to overrun West Coast.
When you commentate a game and you see Heppell, do you call it Heppell's in trouble, but then Heppell gets out of trouble? He's Pendlebury. I know everyone says it, but he is. You think he's held onto the ball too long, but then he takes one sideward step and the game goes past him, and then he makes really good decisions with the ball.
He doesn't fumble, and he makes good decisions.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was so central to what they did. He's the outright leader now in the ABC Footballer of the Year, which is a week-by-week 3-2-1, which I know he's moving up in Brownlow contention. Yeah. He's not to be dismissed when we get there. One more like that, and that might be it. At top of the agenda, the match review panel and the ramifications that this might have. The intervention at this time of year can be so costly. North Melbourne's Brent Harvey finds himself in limbo tonight, sent directly to the tribunal for this incident with Picken yesterday. Not captured in the coverage, came in the footage afterwards. Thrown to ground and then the forearm to the throat.
He's panicking, Liam Picken, isn't he? When I saw this afternoon, Gerard, we didn't say guilty or not guilty in the office. We said how many. Like straight to the tribunal, straight to a penalty. No, I'm not even going to say it's not a good look. It's not a good act. Don't worry about if it's a good look. It's not a good act. He had that shoved into his Adam's apple. Now, I jokingly say, how would you act if I did that to you or you did that to me? That is not good. And I can't see how Boomer can get off that.
So it's misconduct and it doesn't fit on the chart, which is reminiscent of Brian Lake. There's no way to categorise it along the way. Lake ended up with 410 points at the discretion of the tribunal. It's not in the Lake category, but it's in the genre.
I call it in the same bar having a drink. He's got both arms wrapped around the throat there. Boomer had his forearm into the same area. Would you describe this as forceful? I would.
Yes.
I would, Jared.
A suitable force to be sent to the tribunal. I can't argue against this being sent there tomorrow night.
No, either can I.
And once it gets sent, it comes with, well, we believe that this is worthy of sanction. So the problem for Harvey is he's got a 40% loading.
Yes, he has.
So if you look through the misconducts and none of them fit, a level 2, and I think that's about what this is somewhere, say, 225 points. With a 40% loading, that's 315. Harvey's issue here is I think he's going to have to go in and plead guilty, because without the 25%, he risks the first week of the finals.
Yeah, he will. I think he will. How can you not plead guilty to that? They're going to say misconduct, you shoved your forearm into Pickens' throat. He has to plead guilty. We were thinking 2 weeks. I think 1 not sufficient. I know with the point system you graded on, my gut feel, the tribunal looking at it, 1's... then probably 1, but the loading, Jared, gets him. Oh. Yeah. That's not good, is it?
No,
it's not good. It's not as bad as Lake.
No, it's not. And so that was 4, so you work your way down. I sort of sit with 2, but how does the loading affect all of this when it gets there tomorrow night?
It does come into the tribunal's finals.
So Harvey's got an issue. So does Daniel Wells' first game back. He's picked up 2 suspensions here. He's genuinely lucky. He's got a 6-year good record, which has entitled him to an extra 25% discount through 2 incidents. Yeah, I'm not sure whether you're entitled to it through 2. You're certainly entitled to it for the first. But your record's no longer clean when you get to the last quarter.
The second one.
So he's going to end up with a 1-match ban in the high 190s by virtue of the extra, the double dipping at the...
I've got to have a rethink with you, Jared, about the round arm into the guts situation.
Yeah.
That happens a lot in footy. The guy just might have been breathing out and he went down. I mean, they got washboard stomachs just like me, but but I'm not convinced that round arm into the guts like that is an automatic week suspension.
Yep.
I don't think so. The bumping one, well, it wasn't malicious. He just went for the bump and he just nicked the bottom of the thing. I'm not hanging Daniel Wells on that.
No. I'm not. It's panned out well for him.
He has.
He's only going to miss 1, but on the way that fell, that is an anomaly in the system, I think. He's genuinely lucky not to be serving 2 weeks, just on the mathematics of it, not the incidents themselves. And Nat Fyfe, the Free Fyfe campaign, which has been the cause celebre of the recent weeks, it has been nonsensical, but it's over now. He's landed a 2nd suspension for the year, and it means that he won't play until the first week of the finals, because I don't imagine that you could go to the tribunal and argue that didn't happen.
Yeah, no. What was your gut feel when you saw it?
I thought he'd get suspended. You don't see that at every stoppage.
No, you do not. You do not see it. I reckon he was going for the chest and went up, and it finished around Lewis's neck. We'll get Jordan in tomorrow night and we'll ask him, did he clip him? Did it land? Did it land flush on the throat, or did it the round arm? I can't see it with the vision I've got, but you can't be running behind someone in a game of footy and swing your arm around to the front of someone's body.
On your rationale there, the intentional, you might have been able to get that reduced to reckless.
Yeah, I would have thought it was. I thought it was more reckless. I
wonder if Freo will go and argue the grading, still go and plead guilty, and just see if they can get that bounce from intentional to reckless and see him back for round 23.
What's your gut feel again on that?
I think you could make a case.
Yeah, I think so. I wish Jordan Lewis was in tonight so we can find out whether he flushed him or not. Anyway.
Didn't get picked up on the bump, Fyfe. He's walked a bit of a fine line. He had that one.
He was aggressive, wasn't he?
Yeah. And, we don't mind players on the edge.
No, yeah.
You clip over the edges. We've seen a few of these get picked up in recent times.
He was very lucky there. I feel he was very lucky.
Because they already had him once.
They can't be thinking that, Jared.
Well, it didn't appear on the sheet.
I know you're not into processes.
Didn't appear anywhere on the sheet.
I know you're not into processes, but I am. So you just got to go down the process.
Okay, let's get into the nitty-gritty of what happened at Subiaco yesterday, and the Cash of premiership chances increased by 1 as the Dockers put what you would regard as their best case forward.
And they have beaten the reigning premiers, and Fremantle's still a chance to have their greatest season in club history under that man Ross Lyon. There's only ever one first time. This year could be it for the Dockers.
Well, you can't go down the shop and buy confidence, can you? So it's got to be built from action. So our action today, we talk about action, built confidence. So we would get some confidence from, if we deliver the type of action we did relentlessly for a long period of time, we'll be okay.
I haven't seen this sort of pressure since the final they assaulted Sydney last year.
Yep.
This is back. This is at levels we haven't seen for some time.
I don't really want to talk about Fremantle, mate. I talk about Hawthorn. Ask Rossi about Fremantle. They're a competitor of ours. They're a good side. We're probably going to need to knock them off at some point in the finals if we want to salute. But he's the guy to talk about Fremantle stuff, not me. When you have losses, there's a bit of seed of doubt, isn't it? Geelong, how we going? And that's really what it does. It helps firm you up, coaches and players, that we're on the right path. Because if you can deliver against quality, it does give you some confidence out of that action.
They've kicked 17 goals, Kingy. That's a staggering amount for a Fremantle side. They average only 89 points per match, but they've got it right today.
Yeah, we're not going to cry too much about this loss. We didn't play as well as what we could have. Fremantle played a pretty good brand of footy, but we need to just focus on next week.
The case for the affirmative on the Dockers, I thought, got put forward in the last quarter against Geelong. Yep. But in the third quarter yesterday, and the way they went about it and the goals that they kicked.
5-3 to 1-2 in the third quarter. The pressure, I mean, look at these headlines. I mean, we're a news-based show. Tick-tock, timing right for Freo. You know, I would have hoped the headline would have been this ferocious third quarter, Jared. You had to see it. They forced Hawthorn to kick the ball out of bounds, Jared, 4 times in one quarter. 4.
Yep. With
their pressure. One, Brian Lake had a brain fade, perceived pressure, and he kicked out. The other 3 were just all over him. It was as manic as Fremantle has been. And David King made a great comment. When they got Sydney last year, that was like, wow, what they did to Hawthorn in that third quarter. Now, Hawthorn got up and got beaten by 19 points. So let's just say the champs got off the campus. They were bruised and bloodied because they got beaten by Pulp. But the way Fremantle moved the ball, Stephen Hill.
Yep.
He sliced, mate. There was one play on the wing, if I can keep going?
Yeah.
Good. I've missed you for a week. I felt like saying stuff. There was one play on the wing. I'm sure Clarkson would have mentioned it this morning. I probably should have rang up and got it played now.
You reenacted.
Hill had the ball on the wing and he was sort of standing still. And there was 3 Hawthorn players in front of him. And he kicked it over to Michael Barlow, who was running out at half forward. Hill ran past those 3 Hawthorn players. 2 more were here. He just went straight through and got the handball back off Barlow, ran and kicked a goal from 45 metres. It was just brilliant to watch. And Stephen Hill kicked 3 goals. One of them was on the end of a coast-to-coast. 3 coast-to-coast goals yesterday against Hawthorn. It was as devastating an offensive performance by Fremantle that I think I've seen.
Well, that's what we've been waiting for in a way. So
do you believe in timing? Do you believe in timing?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they've had a long time to plot this out from the end of last year through to now. And they had all those games in the middle of the year where they just needed to be accumulating points against opposition that they weren't going to be facing in September. The only question for me around Freo is, if circumstances fall, can they beat on preliminary final day at the MCG, Geelong or Hawthorn? And the last 2 weeks has told us yes.
Yes.
Not that they will, but that they can.
They can.
And once you're in the grand final, of course you can win the flag. We have 4 premiership contenders now.
I was so excited after the game. I was so excited watching the game. It was just... And Michael Walters, God almighty, doesn't he do stuff for the team?
So it's an exhilarating finish to the season, and Richmond is playing such a key role in that. They have been the back marker. They've moved themselves rather beautifully and poetically up into 9th place for the time being with 2 to play. And what was noticeable on Saturday night was they gave up their lead, and there was the sense, well, it's the Richmond way. But they dug in with wonderful resolve and they won it right back.
7th straight victory. Adelaide at the Adelaide Oval. Richmond winners by 10 points.
They've given themselves a chance, and I've watched Richmond supporters all day on Twitter going, right, beat St Kilda percentage, now will Sydney have anything to play for in the last
now
round?
they're onto that.
If Sydney might rest all their players, you come charging home. Look, for what it is already at 7 in a row, and from where they were, it's wonderful.
It is.
And all power to them from here, because they are lighting up the last part of the season.
But they're lighting up footy by the way they're playing. I mean, it's a long season, and every person out there watching right now follows a team, and you go through these highs and lows and you think, why are we playing this kind of football when we've seen them do this? And we can ask Roosie that later, and which we will, and Richmond fans can ask this, and Carlton, every team, West Coast Eagles, Adelaide. Here in Melbourne, the Tigers are like everyone's mate. They're a bit erratic. They get drunk too often and they muck up, but you really, really like them. And when they win 7 in a row, it really sort of gets the city of Melbourne alive. And I don't know if interstate people sort of understand that, but they're just one of those teams that is good for footy. And
it's hard not to hope the best for them.
Yeah, it is. And
when it comes to Richmond, ours is not to reason why.
No, we criticise them, we praise them.
Reason why.
I just love your description, Jared. They had ticker on Friday night. You go interstate, and other interstaters come over here, and you know what it's like to win over here. To go to Adelaide Oval now and win on the road is just enormous.
So all this part of year is all about doing sums. How many? What percentage? And then we got to the Collingwood game and it changed all the sums and all the predictions, because you couldn't have imagined the sequence of unfortunate events that befell the Magpies.
Been the Caper for 20 years now, player and coach, and I can't remember a night like it.
The opposition could have picked 4 players that we would have lost. They're probably the 4, but in saying that, I don't think Gary Ablett and Wayne Carey would have made a difference tonight. It's a very weird night, one of the worst I've been involved in.
So Pendlebury, Elliott before the bounce, Reid, Cloak and Beams finished for the day during tonight's game. So don't want to labour this point, but they have had so many go down this game. It is the story that's evolving. This game not just slipping away for Collingwood, but their whole season slipping away.
When things don't go well, it's not great. No one feels good about it. There have been things outside of our control, and I've focused a lot on the things in our control, and I think there's things that we can still do better, but you don't anticipate to get dealt a hand that we got dealt this evening.
Well, the horror show, the nightmare is over for Collingwood.
We got flogged. We just haven't been good enough this year. That's pretty much what it boils down to. Had a good first half. We've been horrendous the last couple of weeks especially, so just a bit of soul searching.
There wasn't really a lot to hang our hats on, to be honest.
It was remarkable.
I want to say it's the first thing before we're going to Collingwood.
Yep.
Brisbane were magical. And if you're a Brisbane Lions supporter, Jared, you'd be looking at their performance over the last 6 weeks, you'd be thinking, God almighty, how exciting is this? I wish this season would continue.
Yeah. Off the back of a 100-point loss, none.
I just think they've just been fantastic, and they might have the Rising Star winner in Louis. And
but they're not in the finals contention, and that's
I know that. And the Magpies are not in there either.
Not anymore.
They're gone. Magpies were gone before the injuries really set in. I know they lost Reid earlier, but the Lions were in control. The thing which is going to be challenging for the Magpies now, and it's going to be challenging for Nathan Buckley and Gary Pert, the chief executive, and Rodney Eade. They've got to have faith in the pathway that they've taken. And now that pathway's been shaken a little bit. And there's a lot of rumblings outside. I mean, for the first time, Jared, I know supporters are fickle, but there is a bit of a swell against Buckley. Now, whether they believe that or don't believe that, their resolve is going to be tested. Not necessarily on the field. I don't think they're going to do too much damage in the next 2 weeks. But over summer, and how they're going to prepare, and who they're going to recruit. Are they going to admit their mistakes with some of their recruiting? Are they going to reload again and go into that market? Because it's... I picked them 8th. Where did you pick them?
I think 7th or 8th.
7th, right. So they're not actually too far.
Not going to miss by far, but they are going to miss.
They are going to miss.
So I had 45 minutes with Nathan Buckley yesterday.
I heard some of that. It was a great interview.
I love his logical mind. And everything that he walked through makes perfect sense within the construct of what they've set up. And he wouldn't resolve from the fact that the next Collingwood team is there already. And that's what they've done. That's what he's done when he came in, and he took them from the most experienced list to give them the fresh chance at it. So they can't deviate from that. He has the next Collingwood side there, and it's his job to bring them through.
They have to just play with it a little bit. Like all teams, their holes. Is there a coach out there that you interview on radio who is so concise with their answers and believable in their explanation of why they won, why they lost? And you look and you go, yeah, you're right. Yep. You're right, Nathan. You're right. Right? But then you look at him and say, yeah, that's fine, but this is the second time in 4 weeks that your effort has been pathetic.
Yes, so he described the result as an outlier because of the circumstances of the night, as opposed to being the continuation of the collapse of the second half of the season.
Well, they collapsed against Essendon. They really worked hard against Adelaide. Then they beat Port Adelaide, and then they cough up this. Did I miss a game?
No, I think that's right.
I don't think I did. No. That's two poor performances in
I can't divorce the circumstances of the night from it, though. I think it is an outlier. Anyway.
Hang on, mate. Hang on. No, you have to. You can't give teams excuses who are looking for excuses. No, GWS.
I've never seen
GWS lost
like that.
all their players, had one rotation and ran over Melbourne, mate. Yep. No excuses for GWS.
I'm not prepared to just dismiss the sequence of events that happened and say that didn't play a result in how it unfolded. The Sydney side of things, as Josh Kennedy has had a good result with his scan on his hamstring. He still might miss a bit, but he'll be there for the finals.
Josh Kennedy hasn't got a tear. He's just got his hamstrings tight. He's got a little bit of fluid on the outside of his hamstring, but there's no tear in there, so that's a really good sign. We'll see how he goes this week, but we're not going to take any risks with him. We'll be relying upon our medical staff and to make that call. It'd be fair to say that we're not going to put him at risk. I don't have to sit here and say how important he is to us. I think the whole world knows how important he is. He's a good player. But at the moment, it looks like if he doesn't play this week, it'll only be a maximum 1 week out. So that's a good sign.
The only words you wanted to hear today with regard to Josh Kennedy were no tear.
No tear. That's all you wanted to hear. All I wanted to hear from you, Jared, was no excuses. It is round 21. Don't give Dennis Pagan. Don't give me the Labor page, champ. Give me the baby.
Okay, to a serious one. It's Jonathan Patton, and this is awful.
Shocking. Shocking.
I think it really hurts when a player is deprived his fair chance at it, and that's what's happening with Patton at the moment. A second knee reconstruction for a #1 draft pick.
I've only known Johnny for 9 months, and I've lived with him for 6 of them, and learning about his past history and the injuries and where he's got to it was shattering for him to get that news. Last night I spoke to him, and he was pretty upset.
He was shocked. You could clearly see he was distressed and thinking, oh, here we go again, this rehab program for another 12 months. But I think since he sort of thought about it, to his credit, he's on the front foot. He wants to hit it head on.
Think about the contrast in the discussion from last Thursday, where Michael Voss and I were talking about $5 million over 5 years to try to get Patton out to be the figurehead for a club. Happy to be where he is, and then this happens to him. It's awful.
Oh, it is. When he was lying on the ground, Jared, just screaming in pain, I could hardly look. I just felt so sorry for this young man. His parents, his friends, and look at that. It's horrible footage. It's a tough game. Neil Danaher. Did 3 knees, and we'll get to later, and Neil announced what's going on now. I mean, unfortunately, footy's littered with incidents like that, and it's a real shame.
You mentioned hard to look at. Well, it was hard to look at Melbourne yesterday afternoon, and probably scenes that we hoped had been left behind. A resounding boo around the MCG from Melbourne fans at 3/4 time as they watched the deterioration of their team.
We've got 2 weeks to continue to see what this group can do and who wants to play footy and who doesn't want to wave the white flag, and then you've got an off-season to make some decisions. So, and I guess after the game, you got to be careful you don't say something you regret. So it was just a sub-AFL performance.
There's nowhere for Melbourne to hide.
It's ugly, really ugly.
The train's not wrecked, it's off the rails. It's like Vulture over at Carcass right now with the fans, and it's just a difficult day for Roosie, and for the club. It's an embarrassment right now.
Yeah, definitely. Today was not an AFL standard game of footy from us. Oh, I'm embarrassed. The players can speak for themselves, but I mean, you have to be. It looks like they put the cue in the rack. Today was a significant step back. There's no other way to look at it. Just the simple errors. I mean, just incredible. So there's nothing positive to come out of today.
The news of the day is that Melbourne has officially applied for Special Assistance Priority Pick at the end of the season, and this was the statement from Peter Jackson, the Melbourne CEO. I can confirm that the Melbourne Football Club has today lodged a submission with the AFL for special assistance under Rule 19 for a priority selection in the 2014 National Draft, which takes me back about 3 months, Robbo, and you proposed the notion that under certain circumstances Melbourne could have ended up with pick 1, 2 and 3. Yeah. Their natural pick, their Frawley compensation and a priority pick, which at the moment would be 2, 3 and 4.
Yeah, you could. And Jared, you told me before, if they wanted evidence, just send them a copy of yesterday's game at the MCG and the AFL Commission can have a look at that.
So let me pose it like this. Yep. No one in their right mind, having watched yesterday, would think Melbourne's not entitled to help.
Yep.
Is appropriate and proportional help a priority pick, which would be potentially handing 2, 3 and 4 to...
No, I don't think so. Now, I wrote that piece, but if I had an opinion piece, I'd say no. I've seen Melbourne compete this year. They knocked over Adelaide and Adelaide. I mean, we can reel off some really, really good performances. It's a long season. It's tiring. They're not up to it and they're getting beaten. Yesterday was just so embarrassing was the word. It was shameful. It was shameful. And it just took, you're right, it took the club and the supporters back to a time there where they wanted to leave behind and they want to believe in Paul Roos. And I know we've got Roosie coming up next, but I think that belief's shaking right now. And this is what happens when you put in performances like that. The great coach is now getting questioned and he's questioning the players. It really is a basket case, and I don't say that lightly. Yesterday was just depressing for that football club. That said, I don't think the Commission can bow, and I don't think they will, mind you. I spoke to Mark Evans, head of footy ops earlier this year, and I don't know if he told me this was off the record or not. It happened so long ago. Let me just say I don't think the AFL Commission are going to give a...
Because we'll never put 2 and 2 together there. Shall we bring in Roosie and get him to make the case for Paul Roos after the toughest day at Melbourne yet? And Mark Thompson, such a stirring comeback. And Robbo's got a theory to put past Bomber.
Boys, it wasn't long ago that your fathers went to battle for this great club. They played their guts out, week in, week out, to make it proud.
They're making the running. Massini good. Solomon back to Smoke and Joe. Smoke and Joe from 50. Lines it up. It's close. He's done it. Smoke and Joe. A knockout.
Great pleasure for me to present the 1993 Brownlow Medal to a great champion, a magnificent footballer with great ball skills, Tex Wanganeen.
I'd like to thank the Essendon Footy Club, the coach Kevin Sheedy, the boys and the captain Bomber Thompson.
But it's opposite number 10 in the middle. Now Michael Long. Look at this boy go. Away goes Michael Long. 50 metres out. Still going. 30 metres out. Oh, what play! It may have been touched on the line. No! One of the plays of the year.
We are more than a club. We are a family.
The Sons of the Greats. So will that stir Essendon people? Part of the Virgin Film Festival where all 18 clubs have picked something creative to commit to film. And of course, Bomber, you would be the star of it. There's some boys there.
Yeah, the dads were pretty good. I know Joey Massini's young fella got the red hair. I think Joey's mum had a bit of touch of it. I hope she did anyway.
And Paul Roos. Paul, welcome.
Boys, how are you?
Who are we talking about
No,
first?
we might start with the up.
Who?
Let's start with
Not
the up.
me.
Yeah.
It's him.
I'm going to hog it tonight. I'm not letting you talk about Melbourne tonight, Robbo.
Come on,
What did Saturday represent? Was the second half a nadir? Was that the moment where they answered your challenge of when?
I hope so. I hope they continue that on. But for me, like, everybody was so excited after the game, but I'd just been through like a really hard afternoon's work where to get them back was solid. And so to get where we were, it was really disappointing. But obviously to get back and the excitement of that and to eventually win the game and the importance of the game, you could see why people were excited.
What did you do? You moved Winderlick forward and that changed the setup, and you moved Heppel to half-back, which he spoke about yesterday, and he clearly he embraced that. What else did you do?
Oh, well, we just had to fix up the structure. I thought our second quarter was better. We started to get the ball outside of 50 and we had more entries in the second quarter. So it was just about converting, you know, keeping that stuff and then converting the entries into goals, which we sort of, when we go badly, we tend to have our, you know, struggle to score. So forwards get desperate, they push up the ground, don't they, Roosie? And they...
I thought that was the biggest difference. Yeah. Winderlick stretched their defence, didn't he? He stayed at home more, whereas in the first half I thought your ball movement in the first half was just horrible.
Deplorable.
Yeah, horrible.
What about the bombing wrong?
I know.
How did you control yourself in the box?
Oh, I didn't really, mate. If you had have had, like, I don't know what sort of on the broadcast, but inside the box it wasn't very nice language being used. Or
no, we don't want bad language in coaches' boxes. No. Isn't it interesting? I reckon I hear every coach after a game, especially you, Bomber, you say it every week. I want them to play how I want them to play. Now in the second half, instead of bombing it, they were running. They were taking on the game. If you've said it once on this show, you've said it 100 times. Take on the game. We'll get to you in a moment about taking on the game, which you're trying to do.
But you see it though, Robert, eh? With these young kids, like
that confidence,
and it's.
And West Coast had that confidence. They were doing it to you guys.
Oh, they were good. Yeah,
they were very good.
They were good form coming into the game. Yeah. So, but they'd had a couple of weeks where they just played free-flowing footy, didn't they? And Carlton playing free-flowing footy. Richmond playing free-flowing.
I think it's also what your team showed, Bomb, was just that I thought your ball movement patterns in the second half didn't change much. It was just the decision making.
Yep.
You know, the decision making in the second half compared to the first half was dramatically different.
Yeah.
And that's what changes the look of teams. You talk about scoring and the ability to score. I mean, there wouldn't be a coach in the AFL if you go and watch them train that probably does similar things. You know, you get the ball in the corridor and you run it through. But it's the ability to do it under pressure in real time. And I thought that was the biggest change watching the game, apart from the structural things you talked about, Robbo.
Jobe helps, doesn't he? I mean, the guns help.
Well, they make great decisions.
His hands just open up. You know,
Hibbard and Watson both had close to 30 possessions. Yeah. So that's a. You know, they obviously get some for free, but they get a lot themselves and give it away to players. So they're pretty handy players that back in.
The idea of getting a message through, especially to your captain, we just want to show you the phone call with Jobe Watson here.
I think I know this one.
How it unfolded.
We've got the two phones going. The headsets.
What are you doing? You're bringing a pizza on one.
You had the wrong number, Bomber.
I remember. Yeah.
Where did this?
Just hang on, it gets better here.
Oh, there he is. There's Joe.
Message. So, right. Yeah.
Are you talking to?
You're still going?
It's on delay there. It must be on delay.
And he repeated, did you get all of that? Yep, no worries.
He obviously got the good half of the message, though.
I thought I camouflaged it right. I looked down at one stage and seen he wasn't on the phone and then just sort of slowly put it down as if, yep, I'm under control. No one will pick that up.
Do you want to be at Esther next year, Bomber, or is it still to be decided?
Oh, no, we haven't really talked about it, Robbo, to be honest.
But in your own head, the investment you've made since 2011, the senior coaching role this year, do you feel heavily invested in this club? I wrote a piece today trying to find a way that you can stay at the club next year, rightly or wrongly. You know, I think you've got a good relationship with James Hird.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
You know,
I don't want to just walk out and leave this team either. I am invested, but it's just where it all fits. I'm not sure where it all fits, and you know, there's a big super tax coming in next year, and you know, Hird is coming back. He's going to coach. There's got to be a transition, you know, into me.
I suggested co-coaching.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Oh, do
you think it's a possibility?
That's going into real territory that you'd have to sit down and have a good think about. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how it would work.
Is the game really demanding that you need? I don't know if it's co-coaching.
Yeah, I don't know if it's co-coaching. I think we're moving into a territory with the amount of sort of off-field stuff coaches do, marketing, membership, sponsorship.
You do a lot, don't you?
Yeah, you do a lot more now. I've noticed a huge change in that. And I think it's, I mean, we talked about off-air, Robbo, the David Park and Wayne Britton model, which David did. I can't remember what year that was. It was some time ago
Turn
now.
of the century, yeah.
And it was ahead of his time. He was ahead of his time. And I think he might have got criticised for it at the time, but it was interesting that he really took the flack, and you had Wayne Britton as the match day coach, and David sort of controlled the media and controlled the message of the club and took the heat when they lost and all those sorts of things. And ironically, I think when David moved on and Wayne took the job, he found a lot of those things really distracting and a lot of those things really hard. He was a very good match day coach, obviously, and did really well. So that's probably maybe the model you're alluding to.
So, Bomber, it seems to me, if I was taking a guess from the outside, I'd say you're just getting to the good stuff with this group of players, and you might have 3 weeks left, maybe a couple more, but let's say 3 or 4. Yeah. Will it leave you just a little bit unfulfilled? Because I suspect the next year would be the real year to consolidate all that's been done.
Definitely the years to come are going to be built on what's happened in the past, and they should have some good years. I've really not given it much thought. I haven't really spoken to anyone about it.
They're going to come at you and ask you what you want to do.
Yeah,
they're going to. They don't want to lose you.
That's good.
Mate.
Yeah, but as long as it works, you know, whatever it is, and I'm happy to stay if they really want and it fits and it's okay, a role, no problems. But I don't sort of see one there at the moment because it's just they're filled, and the agreement was it was easy for me to come in and take it because I could leave at the end of the year and it wouldn't adjust or affect, you know, the other positions in the club because Neil Craig's in his role and Goody's in his role, and Hurdy just slips in mine, and I was going to slip out.
What about chairman of selectors? Bring back the 1970s, 1980s, the godfather of the football club role.
I think there's going to be roles coming up over the next 5 to 10 years that we haven't even really thought about now. And the game moves so quickly and so often.
We've got 2 general managers of football now.
Yeah,
2. We've got one for performance, the team, and then one for the operations, which is sort of more managing upwards from there, because that's a massive job too when you think of, you know.
Put us inside your job in the last 24 hours, Paul, maybe a step at a time. Did you sleep much last night?
Not really. I mean, you go over the game a lot and a lot of emotions, a lot of thoughts that go through your head, and you replay every part of it from pre-game, quarter time, half time, three-quarter time, post-game, all those sorts of things. So, it's a roller coaster ride during the game, and then after the game, and then today when you watch the game again. So,
How careful were you in preparing what you would say to the players? When did that? Did you?
Yeah, I didn't speak to the players after the game.
Yep.
I sort of. Because sometimes it can be a little bit like Groundhog Day, and you can also damage relationships after games like that, Bomber, can't you? When you start going and you
say things you regret.
You say things you regret. You know, I just felt after that game, we've done a lot of work on standards and discussions on what we expect, and we talked a lot about that at half time. So there was really no point in talking to the players after the game because I didn't think there was a lot to be gained by it.
So you talked to them today?
Sometimes the silence is good too.
Yeah, sometimes the silence is good. No, we're going to Perth, so today is Players' Day off, so we did our review as coaches and we'll talk to them in the morning.
Rosie, I listen to you every press conference, okay? Every press conference I listen to you.
You've never turned up to one?
No, I haven't a lot. They don't boss me on. But that's
you're the head of football.
Why? Tell me why I look at you, Rosie, in the last month and I believe that you're divorcing yourself from the performance. When it's them and the players, they can't kick, they can't mark. You know, God, we could compete. And it's not a personal attack, but I'm seeing this, it's them and them, it's not an us and us. Is this a ruthless Paul Roos trying to say to this football club, these are the standards, if you're not good enough, you're not going to stay?
I don't know, Bomber way, but it's hard at a press conference to answer questions when they ask you about the players. Like, you actually... and I think I got criticised early in the year about doing the same thing. I mean, you try to answer questions that are asked, and often when you hear it, I used to listen to some of the press conferences, you can't actually hear the questions sometimes when you actually listen to the press conference. So when you're asked about the players, I think when you're asked about the team, I always say we the team, you know, we do this, we do that. I mean, make no mistake, as the coach of the team, you're responsible for the performance. I don't think there's any one of us that would, but I think I'd take my hat off to a lot of the press conferences this year. I think they've been really informative, and I learned a lot about when you hear Adam Simpson talking about a train wreck and Bomber at his press conferences. I just think you got to be a little bit careful. We as coaches take responsibility. There's absolutely no question. That's why you don't sleep after the game. You know, I don't not sleep because it's the players over here and me and the coaches over here. But when you're trying to answer questions, if you ask me specific questions about the players, you talk about the players. If you ask a question about, are you embarrassed about the performance? Well, I am. You know, I'm embarrassed about my performance. I can't tell you what the players are thinking, but I'm embarrassed about my performance. So it's really just trying to respond to the questions. But, you know, I feel responsible not only for this year, I feel responsible for the last 7 years, and I've only been there for 10 months. That's how attached you get to a footy club when you get there.
I don't get Roosie that you, like, I don't see that, though. I reckon he's been really supportive of the players, and that he's actually, I thought there was a bit of criticism early in the year, and I don't know whether it was worth that or not, but I thought recently he has involved himself, and it's us. I don't see that, Robbo, that point of view.
So you haven't spoken to the players yet. Do you think they would harbour a sense of dread coming in tomorrow, and should they harbour a sense of dread? Is it going to be pretty ferocious when they arrive?
Look, it's hard to tell with the player group, and that's one of the real balances when you're coaching a team that's struggling, is because you've got to be positive, you've got to deliver the messages, and we've done that all year. You know, and I think probably that's why the most frustrating game by far yesterday, and probably the most frustrating game I've ever been involved in, to be perfectly frank, because you know you talk about these things, you coach these things, you know, we work through them as a group together, we pass on our experiences. The amount of dialogue, I think we've touched on it before, Robbo, is enormous in the week of a footballer. It's enormous, and I don't think probably sometimes
no, we don't. We don't get how much time.
No, how much time.
Each game.
So
week by week.
Yeah. So we would have spoken about a lot of these things and what we're trying to do as a club, you know, over the 17, 18, 19 week period. So they would know what to expect.
Be a standard review.
Yeah, they would know what to expect. And you're trying to do the reviews differently. The last couple of weeks we've had the players watch the game themselves, you know, just in pairs, and analyse each other's games. We've had our seconds guys pick a quarter, watch a quarter, review back to. So you're looking at different ways to give the same message, Bomber, aren't you?
Yeah,
really.
Yeah. We often say, fans and media often say, you know, expectation actually ends up hurting the club. And I think watching the Demons play in the first dozen games, and at one stage I wrote, you know, is Paul Roos a candidate for Coach of the Year for what he's been able to instill into the defensive side of Melbourne. That column seems such a long time ago, where I look at you now and I think, is the expectations on Paul Roos been so great that it's actually hurting Paul Roos now, in the sense where you've knocked over Adelaide and Adelaide, you know, everyone went, wow, have a look at this. Yeah. And then however long ago that was, and then you dish up that crap yesterday, and the confidence is gone, and the defensive mechanisms aren't sort of in place, and the turnovers.
I think what it is, it's just not instinctive, you know. And I think it's the belief that we have in the players. And I'd say the players, I actually believe in the players more than the players believe in themselves. Yeah. And
this is fascinating, this mindset thing. It is unbelievable, Rizzy. You brought it up 3 weeks ago about the mental scarring. We have to believe you, because we are not in this spot. But I've never heard anyone else say, I haven't the mental scarring, Bomber. I just wish you could write something down and properly explain. I'm not doubting it.
It's amazing how much their past comes into their present.
I guess
is it really?
Oh, yeah.
But my focus now has got to be moving forward, because I get sick of talking about it and everyone gets sick of hearing about it. But when
we're trying to explain it. Sorry, we're trying to understand it. We all love footy, thinking, what's he...
So just to finish off, do you feel like you're failing at the moment?
Oh, yesterday, absolutely. Yeah, you feel helpless. I mean, the only reason I'm there is to help the football club and to make the players. That's the only reason coaches exist, is to make the players better and to make the team better. So, absolutely, you know. But
and you are, mate. You are. You have made enormous difference this year, and you've just had one out of the box, you know, at the end of a tiring year where they've had a full of emotions, where they've actually started to believe in themselves, play good footy, and they've just slipped up at the end of a tired year.
Are we overreacting, Bomber, you think?
Yeah,
or is just the frustration is seeping through to a lot of people? Because I'm frustrated for you. And for the fans.
I think the fans, the biggest thing I feel for is the fans, because they've been unbelievably supportive. Like, even after, like, Hawthorn last week, you know, the number of people that say, and I'm disappointed with a 50-point loss, they're going, geez, we lost by 93 points last year. And the fans have been incredible. They're the ones that I feel for yesterday. We had 18,000 people go to the game. Their expectation of us as a team is to, and I talk about minimum standards. I have to deliver a minimum requirement for them to come and watch the game of football. And I think, yeah, all but probably 3 or 4 games prior to yesterday, I think we've delivered on that. But they shouldn't come to the football and watch that. And I'm responsible for that. And you ask, are we failing? Oh, absolutely, yesterday, no question that I failed in my duty as the senior coach of the Melbourne Football Club.
Yeah, hard times, and a trip over to the West, I don't imagine will provide much reprieve. Good luck, and thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks.
No problem.
Bomber, the charge is on for the 8th, so good luck hanging on to it.
Yes, I will hang on.
Bit tense tonight, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Bomber Thompson and Paul Roos every Monday night on AFL 360. Coming up next on the couch, the special guest is Richmond defender Alex Rance. Anything that puts us closer to the Tiger tail at the moment is not to be missed. Amidst all that great action was the most sobering cause for pause, though, and that is the story of Neil Daniher, which has been told across the weekend by Tim Watson.
Tragedy of the disease is you are a witness of your body dying. Every 12 hours, someone else gets MND in Australia, and every 12 hours, someone dies. But it's a anonymous killer, MND. Not many people know about it.
Motor neuron disease is what Neil is afflicted by, and it's absolutely heartbreaking.
Yes, it is a horrible story. Everyone who's met Neil Daniher in football just says he's a terrific bloke. What adds to that, to people who don't know Neil Daniher, Neil Daniher's dying. You know what he's doing? He's not crumbling up in a corner and woe me. He did the interview with Tim Watson because they're great friends, and it was really, really well done. He's doing it to help other people. That is testament to the person that Neil Daniher is, and he's dying days, months or whatever. He's trying to help other people. It is a great thing he did, and a great thing he's going to be doing.
It's incurable, and he wants to leave behind the prospect of greater awareness and potentially the one day finding a cure. So I think everybody's hearts go out to Neil and to his family. That at this time and for what's to come. Players' night tomorrow night. Bob Murphy and Jordan Lewis will be with us with a couple of weeks of home and away footy to go.